Joining us now is White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we're just going to get right into it. Is President Biden still convinced that Putin is going to invade Ukraine, and has anything changed?
All signs look like President Putin and the Russians are proceeding with a plan to execute a major military invasion of Ukraine. We have seen just in the last 24 hours further moves of Russian units to the border with no other good explanation other than they're getting into position to attack. We couldn't predict the exact time or day, but it certainly looks like the Russians are proceeding.
And there have been reports of a possible meeting with Putin and President Biden. How likely is that to happen?
Well, President Biden has made clear all along throughout this entire crisis that he is prepared either way. He is prepared to engage in high-level diplomacy to resolve this peacefully, and he's equally prepared to rally our allies and partners to impose costs and consequences on Russia should they choose to invade. He indicated to the French president yesterday that, in principle, he would be prepared to meet with President Putin if President Putin stood down from his invasion. But at this point, we can't say anything other than indications on the ground look like Russia is still moving forward. How much hope do you have for diplomacy at this point? We never give up hope on diplomacy until the missiles fly or the tanks roll. But we have been working hard for months with our allies and partners to get Russia to sit down in a serious way at the table. Even as recently as yesterday, the president has indicated his readiness to do that. Russia has not shown the same kind of willingness on their side. And so the likelihood that there is a diplomatic solution, given the movements, the troop movements of the Russians, is diminishing hour by hour. And I would just say, Michael, Secretary Blinken went to the United Nations at the end of last week and predicted exactly what we are seeing unfold. He said there would be a manufactured crisis, and we saw that over the weekend. He said that President Putin would gather his Security Council, have high-level meetings in Moscow. We're seeing that today. And so, unfortunately, we have called out at every stage of this what the Russians were going to do, and they are doing it. And even though we're seeing all of these things that have been laid out ahead of time and they're all coming to fruition, we all do hold out hope for an agreement. So if an agreement is likely, what would it look like? Are there concessions that the U.S., NATO, along with Ukraine, could make to Russia to avoid war? Well, it's not really about concessions, Michael. It's about mutual commitments, commitments we would make to Russia and commitments Russia would make to us that would improve everyone's security. And President Biden has not only said that, we've put it down on paper. We've indicated that we're prepared to negotiate reciprocal commitments on the placement of missiles, to have transparency about the military exercises that NATO and Russia undertake, about what we would do with respect to the question of placing missiles or combat forces in Ukraine. So we've been prepared to engage in a spirit of reciprocity with the Russians to enhance security overall. We remain prepared to do that as I sit here this morning. And we saw that President Biden deploy several thousand more troops to Europe, but he said he will not send troops to Ukraine. So will these sanctions and support for Ukraine's defense be enough should Russia attack? Well, President Biden has been clear now for a long time that we are not going to send U.S. men and women to fight Russian soldiers in Ukraine, but we will send and have sent U.S. men and women to defend every inch of NATO territory, because we have an Article 5 obligation to NATO members to defend their territory. That is a sacred obligation, and President Biden takes it absolutely seriously. In terms of the sanctions and other measures that we will impose on Russia, the goal here over time is to ensure that Russia and its defense industry and its capacity to wage war on its neighbors or on anyone else in the world is weakened week by week, month by month, year by year. So we are determined to settle in for a sustained period of imposing costs on Russia so that they do pay a price for an invasion of Ukraine should it unfold as we expect it to. Mr. Jake Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me. You're welcome.